All right, go ahead, guys.
So, with Mike Powell today, we're visiting his shop, and Mike is probably one of the most interesting people I've ever met in NASCAR, and the most entertaining person I've ever met in NASCAR. But we just want to talk a little bit about the Falcon. So, Mike, tell us about this amazing vehicle.
It's a 63 Ford Fairlane. We made a race car out of it when I was in school. It was a street car, and we were looking for a race car. Me and some friends, I was in 8th grade, and looking back on it, and kind of, privileged to have got to tell the story and get to do it. There's some friends of mine, guys that play baseball, and other guys, man, well, we need to race something, and we couldn't afford a go-kart. So, long story short, we didn't even have a license when we found this body and drug it up. And I was fortunate to work at CarCraft for some guys, and they let me work on it outside or sneak it in the bay, when they weren't there. So that was a huge advantage. I think racing, it was, some of the things were different back then, is our fathers were so busy with their own careers then, they couldn't really do it for us or help us a lot. But these guys on the fender here, great guys, they're all still alive. Anyhow, we worked on this thing for about 2 years, and I was in the 10th grade, and Johnny was grade behind me, and Andy was grade ahead. But anyway, we got started with this thing and put it together, and found an engine from a UPS truck, and that saved some dollars there, And my uncle had a junkyard, so that helped a lot. And long story short, got the rascal going, and went over there and ran better every week.
Where did you race it?
It was Caraway Speedway in Asheboro,
okay.
and that was so that was 1978. I was in 10th grade, and the car was pretty light. A huge advantage. They didn't weigh the 6-cylinder cars then. That was an old leftover rule from dirt racing, I was told. It wasn't that they didn't enforce it. They simply didn't have a weight rule for the 6-cylinders, so that the show would go faster on Saturday night. That's what that was for, so that they didn't have to weigh cars before and after the race, so the events played out quicker. So we ended up building this unibody car. So it was a good bit lighter than other guys. Most of those guys had a car from a series up, like a late model car that they put a 6-cylinder in. So we built this unibody car. So it was really several hundred pounds lighter than their cars. That was a funny story. We thought we could do that. We'd seen, be careful not to digress. It's a long story. There was a Chrysler kit car program in the early 70s.
Those.
Yeah,
petty kit cars.
Yeah, so those were unibody. They were Challengers, Chargers, Darts.
Yeah.
So they kind of proved that you could build a unibody car, and people were worried about frames flexing back then, and it's really another story. So we built this unibody car, and I guess the funniest part of the story to me is we take off and we run better every weekend that summer, and we win a race with it, and we weren't arrogant. We just didn't know. We didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
So we take off, and like I said, me and Andy and Bob, Johnny, we would take off, and we run better every week, and win a race. It was the last race of the year, and again, we weren't arrogant by nature, but we were proud that we'd made the car faster. And so the funny part of the story to me is, and then I'll tell you about restoring it, but the next year, so Ricky Craven, I changed the tire for Ricky Craven, hero of mine, when he ran his Xfinity car. It was Busch Grand National then. But Ricky told a story in an interview a couple of years ago, and it was almost the same thing that I realized had happened to me. He ran good his first year, and the next year, those older guys that had been there a lot longer, they sent us to school. that we went by a little too fast.
Yeah.
We hadn't paid the dues they thought we needed. So Ricky made me realize that story. And the next year, I'm not crying foul, guys, but those guys really made us earn it. And we didn't win. We ran good. We didn't win any more until we destroyed the car. And but I think it's a funny story. I think it's good. I believe in paying your dues, but we just went by them pretty fast that first year, and then the next year they buckled down, and we had to earn things a lot harder. But it was good, and they were great guys there. Older guys had been there a lot longer. So anyhow, when Ricky told that story in an interview, I thought, holy cow, that's just the exact same thing. But we ran a few more races. We couldn't afford to run every week. So we really didn't run a lot of races. And then trashed the car out, and I drove for another guy. But the end of the story is, so this car's destroyed, and I really laugh again at this story. So car's destroyed, and well, then you sell the parts off on, right?
Right.
So you sell everything you can get.
Yep.
So you use what you get. So the tub's laying there, and we even took a torch and cut it in half so it'd fit on the scrap trailer. So now this would have been 1980, I think, the year I graduated high school. So we drag off the front half, never get to the back, and it lays out back at our first shop, a building we rented. Well, the Carcraft building, I'm sorry. Moved to a bigger building in 81. Back half of this car still laying in the out back. So fast forward, and my brother says here 3 years ago, you got to restore your car. He's a military career man now. I'm real proud of him. I said, you're crazy. That's a lot of work. Car wasn't all that famous. I'm helping restore other cars, other old race cars. My brother, you got to do it. It's our car. You got to restore. You work on everybody else's car. So we drag out that back part, and that funny story of that building, I know I'm skipping around, but people say, I can't believe you still have it. I said, well, it just happened to lay behind that building, and maybe if I'd have moved one more time, we wouldn't. So, like a lot of cars, when you restore one, you take all you have.
Right.
And that was the back half and a few parts left in the trailer. So some people say, well, how authentic is it? It's all that remained, and that was the back half. And I show one part. So we restore it with the same tools, same guys, same pieces. Had a lot of fun, but I like showing people this. This was how rusty the tray was of the original part. You can see.
Yeah.
So again, not a lot left of the original car from rust and damage, but all it is. And the word people use is period correct, but this is what we did. Right or wrong, good or bad, lucky or not, this is what we ran.
What year is it?
The body is a 63.
And how long have you had it?
I saved the receipt. I bought it behind a gas station in 1976. We went to look at a Fairlane body. They said it was a 67. We drive up. It wasn't a 63. And Andy and I talked about it a week or two and bought it anyway. He never liked the tail fins, but
well, so next year it'll be 50 years.
Yeah.
50 year anniversary. You know, it's funny you were talking about taking to school, and I took a pro stock to Loudon, the mile track, and I hadn't been in a racetrack in a long time. And we pulled out on the grid, and I figured I'd go in the back. So I'm the last car sitting in the back. The two guys in front of me unstrapped from their cars and walked back to me. I'm like, what did I do? And they're like, hey, rookie, get to the front, get on the inside, just stay out of the way as we come by on the outside. I'm like, yes, sir, yes, sir. So I drove the car around. I got up in the front corner. I'll stay down here. And we took off. They threw the green flag, and I never saw them. Mike stayed out front. So I pulled in the garage, and I got out of the car, and I looked. I said, hey, guys, what happened? I never saw you. don't be a smart, blah, blah, blah. And they yelling at me. So I ended up, 3 days later, we were there for 3 days. They let me start in the back after the third day, and we had some fun. But yeah, they told me exactly where to go.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you've done a great job on the car, Mike.
Funny, if you pan around, that's a picture of it in 78, the first race, and on the left, and then obviously it says Sonic Drive-In.
Yeah.
Well, that was the next season. Friend of Andy's, Andy Allred, great guy, he's in the grading business. He was a grade ahead of me, so there was a friend of his that was a nighttime manager at the Sonic Drive-In, and we scored a few bucks from them. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was some money, and it was free food. So I just wanted to point that out. And in '78, there was a farm that sponsored us. Reed Shaw's farm was on the rear quarter panel then. So this was really the 1979 paint scheme, and Reed was still our friend and sponsor. Reed owned cars that ran in Grand American here in town. He had a driving career and owned cars, and that's quite a story. He's gone from earth now, but he'd helped us, and that also is where our paint scheme came from. Reed Shaw, again, that had sponsored us. He owned a tie company, and it was this tie right neckwear company. So again, Reed Shaw and his family, that they owned cars. They had bought Cougars from Bud Moore from the Grand American Series. Those cars were red and black. Well, when Reed bought those cars to compete in the Grand American Series with Wayne Andrews, unfortunately, we just lost Wayne 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Wayne was the 1972 Grand American champion in another car. But Reed Shaw's cars that he bought for Wayne to drive from Bud were red and black. Well, Reed took those colors because in '70, Bud Moore went to yellow. So Reed Shaw sort of hung on to the red and black paint scheme, and that's where we got it from. But that history goes all the way back to, Joe Weatherly, right? In Bud's cars. But it's funny, still funny how things come together, how different things happen. But it's crazy that we still have this car and restore what's left of it. Seems like it seems to be pretty popular. I guess I tend to forget how many short track cars in the '70s were Chevrolets, and in the minorities were Dodges and Fords. Yeah. But I think people like the tail fans and the Ford. But we take it to some charity events and car shows now, and some of the original guys go, and then I don't have to tell you how much fun that is, and hanging out with Joe when we go to some of these things. He was bragging on me about being fun when the video started, but this guy, his heart is so big, and he's so patient with people. I appreciate his energy and that enthusiasm. It's not common every day you run into people that are so generous with their spirit and care
Mike,
about the
I
sport.
want to thank you for preserving the history.
Get out of
I
there.
wanna Thank you for spending some time with us.
Man, it was fun, guys.
Cool, thank you.
I see right behind the seat there, it looks like you got a cutout in the metal there.
Good catch. I'm from Houston, Texas originally, all my family, and we did that with several cars that were mine and then my father's. We took I think originally my brother took a piece of a puzzle from the United States puzzle and drew it a little bigger and laid it on there, and we thought
awesome.
that was kind of our
that's awesome.
signature. And then later on, AJ Foyt had a car that he did that with his headrest too. kind of a trademark. It's awfully cool that you caught that.
Yeah.
Uh,
The Alabama gang, and now you got the Texas gang.
We'll lift the hood if you care to. It's
Sure, might as well.
I love,
We're here.
still love looking at these cars. This car is the way we raced it for the vintage races. We update the seat belts, and we add the radios, and update the shocks and the tires, and that's about it. Most everything else, again, when someone looks at it and they smile real big and they go, wow, and I just say, well, that's the way we did it. You know, that's Joe does it. He recognized cloth braided hoses, and you know, these were the methods and construction methods at the time. Had to make a little clearance for the rockers here, and the homemade manifolds we made and sold those at the time. Holman and Moody made one about that time, and it ran really well. We couldn't afford that one, so we stayed making our own car. We put an alternator on this car and left the and just switched it off. We had trouble keeping the belts on the front of the engine. Chevrolet offered some deep groove pulleys, but Ford didn't. We put the Boss 302 pulley. Certainly didn't need an alternator for that kind of racing, but again, it was a way of keeping the belts on the front of the motor. We slung those off several times. So, but the Corvette radiator was, at the time, commercially available aluminum radiator. Saved a lot of weight, and then the expansion tank that went with it. And it's always fun to see one of these Vertex Magnetos. They're kind of a crowd pleaser for us old guys. And Joe's modified days, you always saw those things sticking up out of the hood. An airplane type of ignition that doesn't require any support. You just ground it to shut it off, generates its own power. But it's real cool when you drag these cars around. Guys, the people that know what they are, they have a great big smile, and then the people that don't, they sort of smile too, and listen to an old guy like me carry on about having fun with the car.
Well, thanks again,
it's
Mike.
fun with the cars and the people we get to
I know.
do it with. That's
What I'm talking
That's
about.
the best part.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.